we've just had one of the greatest Indian elections in the recent times.
There were two key takeaways for me from this. First, if anybody says democracy is dead in India, they're not listening or they haven't seen the verdict. And second, this was an election where it was funny. I felt that the BJP was a victim of their own expectations.
There is a theory that's going on that there was some dissent between the RSS and BJP, and that is the reason, because of some local politics in UP, that their seats were cut.
This election, unlike what we saw in 2019, there was no central narrative that drove the election. I remember in 2014, obviously, you were coming off Congress's anti-incumbency, that became the narrative. In 2019, you obviously had the Pulwama
and the Balakot.
It was very unfortunate. Ideally, it shouldn't have become, but it did become a narrative.
So do you feel that with Nitish Kumar now supporting the government, there's going to be a lot of funding to Bihar and Bihar getting that as a specialized status?
Considering the socio-economic and financial fabric of the state, there obviously will be certain support that will be pushed across to the state.
Will we see a UCC?
I feel the UCC is not as straight-jacketed because in India you have to understand that there is a scheduled tribe.
There is fear amongst the people that after Modi gaya to BJP toot jayega. So who's next? Welcome to My Turn with Divyesh Doshi, and today I have with me my dear friend Janay Jain, who's a lawyer and a counsel at the Bombay High Court. So since college, whenever we wanted to discuss politics, everyone went to Janay because we believe that he has one of the most varied opinions on subjects. Please watch this episode till the end. We are discussing about the great Indian election, and we also talk about how the judiciary and the executive have an important role in the entire national setup. Make sure you watch it till the end. Janay Jain, how are you?
I'm good, how are you? What's up?
So Janay, I've been knowing you since law college days, and tell us about your college life, your school, your background.
So, I'm a third generation lawyer. I've grown up, studied in Mumbai. I went to school here. I also went to government law college together. That's where we became friends. Thereafter, I went for my LLM to the University of Cambridge. And after I came back, I've started counsel practice at the Bombay High Court. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Today's episode for the listeners is about the politics of India today. So we've just had one of the greatest Indian elections in the recent times. Janay Jain, what is your view on this election that just went?
You know, I actually I'm been very like an avid political science reader. I love reading about politics, Indian politics in particular. And I think there were two key takeaways for me from this. First, if anybody says democracy is dead in India, they're not listening or they haven't seen the verdict. And second, this was an election where it was funny. I felt that the BJP was a victim of their own expectations. They won, but for some, they felt like, oh, they had lost. And the Congress, they definitely lost, but for themselves, they believe that, oh, look, we won. You know, this is something that has surpassed our expectations as a whole. But I feel most important for me was this whole paradigm, this whole narrative that, oh, you know, EVMs are rigged, democracy is dying, India is an electoral autocracy, we're sliding on the electoral autocracy scale, we're moving towards a one state, one leader. I think all of that was humbug and that was called out, right?
I recollect a WhatsApp message on 5th June, that is after the voting day, that this election was a victory for everyone. BJP naturally came out as the largest party. Congress, even though it got the third lowest seat ever in its history, it still was a revival. And definitely for Nitish Kumar, Chandrababu Naidu, even they have a stake in the government today. So overall, it was a victory for all. But the 400 par narrative and the overconfidence of the BJP. So I believe that in that sense, BJP definitely got the campaign wrong.
No, look, I feel like there are some things that you have to understand that, you know, you're coming after 10 years, right, of being in government. So in India, definitely anti-incumbency always plays a big role, right? It's like take an example of what happened to Congress, right? When they came in 10 years later from 2004 to 14, they landed up at whatever, I think 44 seats. And that was the lowest for the Congress at all points in time. So incumbency, yes, is a big thing. And I feel there were a lot of factors that went into play in this election. It was a long drawn out election. You had one of the most torrid summers that you have seen. the voting percentages were slightly lower than what you saw typically.
But then you divide the entire election process into seven phases, which is the longest ever in our Indian election setup. Then you have the Ram Mandir inauguration, on which the BJP has been fighting elections for over 30 years on the construction of Ram Mandir. And after that, I personally thought that 400 par was never happening.
I feel the Indian voter is very funny. I feel like something happens, they are like, okay, now what's next? So I feel like this election, unlike what we saw in 2019, there was no central narrative that drove the election. I remember in 2014, obviously, you were coming off Congress's anti-incumbency, that became the narrative. In 2019, you obviously had the Pulwama
and the Balakot.
It was very unfortunate, and thereafter Balakot, that in a way, ideally it shouldn't have become, but it did become a narrative. In 2024, this was an election which you didn't see a central narrative as such. And I mean to say, look, Ab Ki Baar, 400 Par, these are all headline catchers, right? But I feel like an Indian election ultimately is fought on the ground. It's fought seat to seat. It is one thing to say that, okay, let's analyze it from a narrative point of view, or let's look at it from a headline point of view. And then the second thing is to see is that, look, what actually went wrong.
So Janay, like how you are breaking down this election into seats. So the Indian election, the 543 seats, the 50% of those seats come from roughly 6 states. That is Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Bengal, Bihar, Rajasthan and Gujarat. So let's discuss each of these states, what went right and what went wrong for those particular states. Let's start with Uttar Pradesh. So Uttar Pradesh was a state where you just have the Ram Mandir. You've had 2 successful assembly elections. You have the full Hindutva narrative in place, the Hindu heartland, and as they say, the road to Delhi goes through Lucknow. So what went wrong in Uttar Pradesh?
I mean to say, look, I don't think a particular thing went wrong. I think again it was like, you somewhere became a victim of your own expectations, because if you look at it, 37 seats is not bad. But when the Prime Minister is contesting, I obviously feel the expectation is that, because his electoral track record has been so successful, it's a question of wanting more. So I feel that's the first way where you keep this like a disclaimer in mind, and thereafter you look at analyzing it. Secondly, I definitely feel Samajwadi Party, they did well. I think they got their caste consensus right. They got the caste combination right, if you can consider it right. Like before, it was only looked at a party of Yadavs. This time they inculcated a little bit of the scheduled castes in as well. So I think that became one caste consensus that definitely.
And also there was a fear that the constitution is going to change and they are going to change the reservation. And I feel the opposition picked that point very well in convincing the voters that if the absolute majority is with the Modi government, there may be a move to change the constitution. And few leaders saying that hum badal denge constitution ko, like you have Arun Govil, who was first time given a ticket in UP, and then he makes such comments. So
no, I feel like this whole narrative, right, of changing the constitution, wherever it comes from, I feel now I'm talking as a lawyer. Forget the politics. I feel it's a little ill-informed, because if you've seen the basic structure of the Indian constitution, right, what came out of Keshav Nanda Bharti, that there are certain elements that are so basic and so ingrained in our constitution that they cannot be altered even if the parliament rules 543 to 543. So I feel to say, right, like these core principles, right, freedom of speech and expression, you can say, or freedom of speech and expression is still debatable, right, but independence of the judiciary, the independence of our electorate, having the elections the way that we do, universal adult franchise, secularism, these are all tenets that grow and die with the Indian constitution, right? So, and as long as India as a country survives, these tenets survive. So this, I don't believe that, one can say that this constitution can be altered.
But Janay, I believe this is what the voter failed to understand, because the way the country was going, it was like Modi kuch bhi kar sakta hai. So even though you talk about Kesav Nanda Bharti, you talk about basic structure of the constitution, but the feeling was कि नहीं आ गए तो कुछ भी हो सकता है.
No, I feel like, I don't know if that was a view or not, but I definitely feel that's not how it went, because I remember in 2014 when the BJP came to power, they brought the NJAC, the National Judicial Appointments Commission, right? The amendment to what would alter how judicial appointments were to be made. And thereafter, you see, in 2015, the Supreme Court struck that down, saying that it was violative of the basic structure of the Constitution. So that was the first example. Thereafter, you see the electoral bonds judgment. Thereafter, I think the government brought in the fake news provision in the IT Act, which would deal with misinformation and disinformation. And a viewer like may not be confused or may be confused as to what is misinformation and disinformation, which I believe played a major role in this election in countries across the world. It's only going to come in the future. You see the Supreme Court state that on the basis of the wording of the provision. They didn't find it to be very happily worded. So in that sense, you see that there are a lot of things at play. You cannot say that one man can do anything, or it doesn't. I don't feel it's a very naive view.
No, so two seats I want to talk about in Uttar Pradesh. One is definitely the Amethi seat. Smriti Irani, Union Minister, she's done so much in her term. Like, I was personally a big fan of her work. How did she lose that one? And what went wrong for her?
I think there are a bunch of factors. I feel that you have to keep into account that Amethi has traditionally been a Congress bastion, right? So I feel that is one thing that you have to put into account. B, I think the popularity of the local candidate who they brought up at that point, Kishori Lal Sharma, he's been someone who's been in Amethi. He actually made a statement saying that this belongs to the Congress party. They've just handed it over to me.
You know what I know about Kishori Lal is that he goes to everyone's birthday, be it their anniversary, any death in the family. So he is connected at the grassroots level, Kishori Lal, and that's what.
No, I feel like that definitely did play a major role, right? Like I can guess the other seat that you're going to pick a point on is Ayodhya, and I feel a lot of people said that, and I feel there again it came down to the same thing, right? There was anti-incumbency at the end of it. So when you're
not just anti-incumbency, I believe that what went wrong there was that there's a lot of land that's been acquired of the local public. So there was dissent with that okay, the Ram Mandir is being set up, but that does not that mean that we have to leave our land.
I mean, look, I always feel in such cases it's a catch-22, right? Like, for example, take when so many infrastructure projects, when say, and even a dam is to be built, there will always be a certain amount of people who are saying that, their livelihood of fisheries, or maybe they would be farming around the areas, they would always be losing their land. But then there would also be hundreds of other jobs coming up. So there's always a catch-22 situation in such a scenario when there will be some that will benefit, some that will lose. But I feel more than that, if something really has to go down to the T of it, is ultimately that, again, I'm saying this and it may sound at the cost of repetition, but anti-incumbency, when you're seeing the same faces for 10 years, when you're seeing the same person come for you as your electoral candidate, and obviously there are day-to-day sluggishness in everybody's life, right? And that's where the elections becomes a point where, okay, will it be different? Can it be changed? So I feel these were some of the factors that obviously did come into play. Also, I feel there was a consolidation where SP and Congress came together. There was a large amount of consolidation where a vote wasn't divided or a vote wasn't wasted.
So that's where the opposition, the India Alliance, got it right.
Yeah, I mean to say to some extent now.
Where they localized the politics seat by seat.
Where they localized the politics seat by seat, but more than that, I feel there was a vote consolidation, right?
Before I conclude with the largest state, 80 seats, Uttar Pradesh, there is a theory that's going on that there was some dissent between the RSS and BJP, and that is the reason, because of some local politics in UP, that their seats were cut. There is that. This is just a theory that is.
To be very honest, I would view this as conjecture, and from whatever I read, I didn't particularly. I mean, you've seen articles like that, but then you see articles across the board on all varying spectrums. So, I mean to say that now you never know what's there, right? Like we can conject about it here, but I feel it's more beneficial to speak on data when you see what we've seen, because that will give you a clear answer, right? This, I mean, ultimately boils down as gossip.
So let's discuss the second largest state, Maharashtra. Maharashtra politics for the last 5 years has been super interesting.
You can make a web series on it.
Yes. And someone is, I feel like while we are talking, someone I'm sure is making a web series on this. So where do you want to start Maharashtra from?
I mean to say, look, there are a lot of things that can be said. I feel this state is also very interesting because there are pockets.
It's our home state.
It's our home state, so I think we know it a lot better. There are a lot of highly urban areas. There are a lot of rural areas. There is, in some parts, you had earlier seen the Naxal problem. Unlike a lot of other states, you've got 4 political parties. I think now that has only gotten more and more. Earlier it was Congress, BJP, Shiv Sena, NCP. Now it's Congress, BJP, Shiv Sena into 2, NCP into 2. So, and thereafter you have Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi, you have Raj Thackeray, you have AIMIM that plays a big role. And then there are a lot of, I also feel Maharashtra is one state where compared to the other states, each candidate wins on his own name despite the political party.
No, so let's start with this, that in 2019, BJP-led alliance got 43 seats out of 48 in Maharashtra. This time BJP, out of the 28 seats that it contested, it got only 9 seats. So there, after 5 years of intense politics in the state, breaking of parties, change in governments, switching sides, litigation all around. Like you have the
Good for the lawyers, no?
good for the lawyers definitely, but with so much done and then coming up with this result.
Look at the most interesting thing, right? You have a vote share where I think when I read it, the Mahavikas Agadi got 2 crore 50 lakh votes and the Mahayuti got 2 crore 48 lakh votes. So after all this, it was a play of 20 lakh.
No, but Maharashtra was one of the states that BJP was sweeping with the Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena.
No, so I mean to say again, right? Like, I feel like it was an incredibly close election in Maharashtra. Don't make the mistake of saying that this was a one-sided win, because when the difference is 2 crore 50 lakh to 2 crore 48 lakh, it is very, very close. Like, take Vaikar's constituency in Bombay itself, right?
48 seats.
48 seats.
48 votes.
48 votes. Or, for example, take South Mumbai, very, very closely contested seat. Take Ujjwal Nikam seat where he lost. So these were all very, very close seats. It wasn't one to say that it wasn't where you won by a breakthrough margin. And even seats where BJP won, it's not been a margin of great numbers. So what, again, the conclusion that first I would like to draw is that, look, this was very, very close. Secondly, coming back to our earlier points, there was a consolidation, and for the first time, I think you saw votes which catapulted where the Shiv Sena votes went to Congress. But I would say the Congress votes didn't go to Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray. Because if you think of it, he contested 21 seats and has ended up with 9 seats. And Shinde Sena's contested 15 seats and he's gone with 7. So obviously 9 may look like a more rosy number. But if you look back and take a step back, if you take this math, you see that, look, this was again very, very close. And I feel what political parties would be saying is that yes, there is the time to analyze. But now, when you come to this, there is no space because you're looking at the state elections in October.
Absolutely. But Janay, I just want to go back 2.5 years before this, where you talk about close margins and seats being won and lost and Maharashtra being so tight. There were various surveys that were going on, internal surveys. So I believe that's when BJP's think tank started breaking parties or getting Eknath Shinde on their side, then getting Ajit Pawar on their side. Like one day before Ajit Pawar switched to BJP, Modi is saying that irrigation scam, the other scam, the Maharashtra Southern scam of Shagan Bhujbal. So one day before, your Prime Minister, your brand Modi is talking about all this, and the next day the NCP joins BJP. So since 2.5 years, because of these internal surveys, BJP somewhere knew that the Mahavikas Agadi under Uddhav Thackeray is doing good work, and they are going to get more seats in the coming Lok Sabha election. So they start their work, but they still fail.
I feel one thing that was the major difference is that I feel in certain amount of seats in Maharashtra, not political party wise, but the alliance wise, right? Mahavikas Aghadi, they brought out their candidates a lot earlier, and that gave them some time to work. In comparison, I feel the one place where I think the Mahayuti could have done a little better is that they could have given their candidates a little bit more time.
Yes.
Because as I say, that it was a game of margins. So I feel that was one aspect that obviously did play a role. I feel secondly, you would have heard this point a lot of this, political washing machine. The political washing machine narrative, I think, is what a lot of people brought up, that I think as alliances were changed, cases were dropped. But then again, I mean to say, if you look at studies, and their argument is to say that in some cases the courts have given a clean sheet, in some cases like in Ashok Chauhan and Praful Patel's case. So I feel to say that, and there was one narrative that I felt that a lot of people who have supported the BJP throughout always thought that if we would have gone alone, then what would have happened? Could we have done better?
Yes.
Would people have voted for us directly? So I feel like there's a lot of introspection on all elements for all parties to do. And I also feel that Maharashtra has been so uncertain and so tumultuous for the past 5 years. The question I would ask yourself is that by the end of October, do I believe, looking at reading the newspapers, that will these alliances stick? Will these alliances change? It's anybody's guess. I honestly don't.
It feels as if the voter is being taken for a ride. Like you
But you
are
know
with the
where-
alliance and you take our votes,
But you
and
know
then
where this
you are
happened?
just
Where this happened?
playing musical chairs.
I'll tell you. And I very strongly feel for this. In 2019, a large number of people voted for Uddhav Thackeray and their seats, saying that Fadnavis would become chief minister. They bought into the 2014 to 2019 vision. Once you have contested as the NDA for the election, as soon as the election results come, you have flipped aside, and all those people who voted for you where there was no BJP seat, thinking this was part of the alliance, have now realized that their vote has gone transferred to the other Mahavikas Aghadi. So that's the first place where I feel the fraud was played. So, in the coming times.
But then you have the Lok Sabha election where the same voter has gone back and given 30 votes to the Mahavikas Aghadi.
No, correct. That is different.
So definitely the sympathy, I believe, on the ground is with these age-old parties, Sharad Pawar, Uddhav Thackeray, and because of all this, the winner is definitely the Congress that came out as the party with the majority seats in Maharashtra.
So, but that's what I tell you, right? Now, what's very interesting is I don't know how Congress and Shiv Sena are going to balance their vote seat sharing for the elections, because now a resurgent Congress in Maharashtra is going to say, look, we've delivered these number of seats, we want the larger share of the pie. And today, it's a question of Uddhav Thackeray's survival, that if he gives away these seats, then he's not a national party, he's a state party. So there's again a question on the alliance. It's a lot of seat sharing. And hopefully they don't want to make that mistake where they will be putting their seats out so late, because there'll be a lot of in-room struggles as to who will take what seat. We won so many seats in the Lok Sabha, so these many assembly seats should come to us. So now you don't know what's going to happen.
So I just wanted your view on this one, that Balasaheb Thackeray was very vocal about how Shiv Sena would never ally with the Shiv Sena would never enter into an alliance with the Congress party, and today now they have joined hands, and that is the narrative set by Eknath Shinde, that the Congress and Shiv Sena were never a natural alliance, and it's the BJP and the Shiv Sena that's the natural alliance.
But that's the thing, right? Like people say, look at TDP, look at JDU. These are all NDA alliance partners. They have been together, working together, has been in their DNA for the past 30 years. For example, when the Vajpayee government was there between 1999 to 2004, Shiv Sena was a part of it, TDP was a part of it, JDU was a part of it. These are all natural BJP alliance partners. Similarly, how Congress has always been with, for example, they've been with the NCP. At times they've gone together with the Samajwadi Party. That is in their DNA, or with Lalu. So, for example, this is where the natural alliances of Indian politics have been drawn for so many years. Maybe when JDU walked out for 5 years or TDP went independent, it was possibly an aberration.
Can we see a flip back of Uddhav Thackeray coming back to BJP?
I mean, look, I don't know. I honestly, I mean to say, as of now, I think it looks unlikely looking at the way the bad blood's been shed on both sides. But if it were to happen, I wouldn't be surprised, because ideologically they have always been aligned. For example, the person who had been the biggest advocate for the Ram Mandir throughout his entirety of his tenure was, not tenure, but his entire life was Bal Thackeray. So I mean to say, BJP and Shiv Sena, their DNA was very similar. That's why they say a lot of Shiv Senics moved out with Eknath Shinde, because they felt that they didn't want to work with the Congress. Because it's like, look, for all my life, if I've been saying something and then I have to turn on that and say that X or Y is better, I feel like that sometimes with the core Karyakarta does not sit down well. Absolutely. Because what politics forget is that with power there is also ideology. And in your pursuit of power, you cannot forget the question of ideology. That's where I think the core lies.
And before we conclude Maharashtra, because the way we are talking, I want to conclude Maharashtra. So, what is the way forward for the assembly elections? We have the assembly elections in October, and with so many political parties in place, with the results of the Lok Sabha just coming in, what do you feel is, I feel Mahavikas Aghadi is definitely the favorites for this election.
I mean to say, look, I feel 5 months in Indian politics is a very, very long time to come. You don't know what the equations are going to play out thereafter. At this point in time, I don't know whether Mahavikas Aghadi is going to stay the way it is, the Mahayuti is going to stay the way it is. I still feel that this is an election that's going to be so close to call that even after the elections, you're going to be second guessing. But I feel the only thing that you possibly can ask for is a consistency in form of government, right? I think predictability, that's the need of the hour in Maharashtra, because you don't know which way the political verdict is going to come out. I think in either way,
what is your bet on?
I mean to say, my bet would be something, let's see now how it goes forward, how it comes up. So I don't know, I don't have a bet particularly as of now.
Janay Jain, coming back to the Indian election and the results, Bihar was an important state that went in the favor of BJP. So what went right in Bihar?
I think the alliance worked very well. People can call Nitish Kumar all sorts of names, but he's a leader with a ear to the ground.
Absolutely.
And I think that showed. Although Tejashwi Yadav's rallies packed in a large number of people, I don't think that really translated into votes. Secondly, I feel there were certain points where Congress was a little unhappy with the seat sharing in Bihar. So I feel that also played a little bit of a factor. And third, I feel also it was the popularity of the Prime Minister that transcended all of these issues in Bihar particularly, because a large number of his schemes alleviated to the people of Bihar, right? Like where you think of, for example, Ujjwala that came in from 14 to 19, or a very important scheme was this scheme called Har Ghar Nal, Har Ghar Jal, where to give water. Thereafter,
What is the Ujjwala scheme?
the Ujjwala scheme is regarding the gas cylinders, where earlier you used to see that the women used to use they had to use the chullas to cook rotis and to use the stove. However, now each house is getting a gas cylinder. But that obviously came in between 14 to 19, so that had a larger impact on the earlier election. And this year, I think the game changer were two schemes. That was first was Har Ghar Nal, Har Ghar Jal. Har Ghar Nal, Har Ghar Jal is basically to say that in every house, just close your eyes and imagine a life without a tap, no place for your in the restroom, in to cook, for your basic needs, to wash your hands, even. So I feel this was something so rudimentary, and I feel that really struck a chord with the people. Thereafter, I feel in COVID, the government had started the PM food grains, where I think 2 kgs of food grains per month. I feel all of these aspects, they played a large role in even in a state like Bihar. This also transcended into parts of Jharkhand, Odisha. So I think these popular welfare schemes under the name of the Prime Minister, and most importantly, because Aadhaar allowed them this direct benefit transfer without a seepage or a wastage. I think this was a large part of the success if you take aside, these caste combinations and so on and so forth. So I feel that played a very big role.
So do you feel that with Nitish Kumar now supporting the government, there's going to be a lot of funding to Bihar towards and Bihar getting that as a specialized status?
No, see, this special status I don't think is a possibility legally, because I think that was shut down a few years ago, where you're giving one state a special status. But I definitely feel that considering the socio-economic and financial fabric of the state, there obviously will be certain support that will be pushed across to the state. And obviously, I mean, look, let's not be naive. I feel like if you're part of an alliance, a large part why regional parties team up with the central party is because they feel that they can advance their own state interests. So of course you will see a large part of that.
One important person that we must talk about whenever we are talking about Bihar is Chirag Paswan. And the way the Prime Minister is promoting Chirag Paswan is something that everyone must observe. And now Chirag Paswan getting all 5 out of 5 seats, that is something that you shouldn't miss.
I feel like I found Ramvilas Paswan to be a very interesting political character, because from 2004 to 14 he was with the Congress and in the UPA. Thereafter from 2014 to 24 he was in the NDA. So I feel definitely he's someone who used to read the Hawa very well, as they call it. He was always on the right side of power. And thereafter I feel again with Chirag Paswan, what you're seeing is that this is a person who's turning into a traditional NDA ally, where at the end of it there's a semblance of ideology that's coming at the forefront. And I feel like electorally, obviously, there is a major success. I mean to say, if we give Sharad Pawar the due that he gets, and obviously so because he scores 7 to 8 seats in Maharashtra this time as he did, I feel the manner in which Chirag Paswan scored 5 out of 5 in Bihar as well, I think that makes him no less an important
Or
leader.
is Modi supporting him so much because they know that Paltu Chacha, Nitish Kumar, like they say, there are memes going around that ऐसा कोई बना नहीं जिसको पलटू चाचा ने ठगा नहीं. So with that, like because you know that Nitish Kumar can flip any side, so having Chirag Paswan with you makes your alliance in your future alliances in Bihar strong. And with the elections in Bihar, the state elections coming up in 2025, where we may see Prashant Kishore coming up with the Jan Suraj Party, and he's making tall claims across interviews that he's going to become the next chief minister of Bihar.
No, so I feel like, just to answer this in two ways, I don't feel like this is being done to prop up an alternative to Nitish Kumar, because I feel Nitish Kumar's popularity is something that's here to stay. I feel like he's done a lot of good for the people of Bihar that a lot of people have struck a chord with, especially the women in Bihar. So I don't think it'll be naive to say that, because all said and done, I think LJP's stronghold extends to a particular region. They're not a pan Bihar party, if you can call it, where Nitish Kumar's popularity to some extent he's a pan Bihar leader, right? That's what you can say. So that's not the case. And I feel for Prashant Kishore also, I think it's going to be a very interesting election, because you've made all these tall and lofty claims, but usually for political startups, it is typically not as easy. Because even if you see, for example, in Tripura, there was the Tripura party. That was the only party where I think the royal family of Tripura had come in to say that they would get some special status or special condition for Tripura. And they did well, the Tripura Mortha.
But that's a relatively smaller state.
So that's what I'm trying to say, that it was only in that state where a new party altogether could come up and do so well. Typically, you see in India where a lot of people have tried with these new parties or independent candidates going forward, no matter what their personal popularity is, people may listen to you, people may stand for your rallies, people may take pictures with you, but that may not always translate into votes.
But one thing is for sure that there is going to be development in Bihar, and we'll see more projects coming up in Bihar.
No, yeah, definitely, right? You'll see more projects coming up in Bihar. And why not? It's a very important state. You get around 40 Lok Sabha seats somewhere.
Absolutely.
And that only goes on to show the number of people that are residing in that state particularly. So, and it's something, a state that has been, it's been suffering from poverty alleviated. It's been suffering from floods. It's there are a lot of problems. Law and order was a major issue that now has gotten cleaned up in Bihar to some extent.
So now moving to another state where the pollsters got it wrong is West Bengal. Like out of the 42 seats, people thought that BJP is going to make further inroads, and probably some expected a clean sweep in West Bengal. But Didi has still got it right.
No, of course. I mean to say, look, Mamata Banerjee is a leader that has come from the grassroots, right? She did not have any political forefathers or somebody supporting her. This is entirely self-made. She knows the lay of the land. But what you have to see very interesting is that why West Bengal politics stand out is that it's because the Congress and the left have been decimated. Between BJP and Congress this time, BJP and TDP, TMC this time, you have seen a vote share in excess of 70-75%. That basically makes it a two-party run. The third and fourth party, that is the Congress and the left, have been wiped out with 5% to 6%. So that is one very interesting factor, where in 2014, the BJP was gasping at straws in Bengal. From 2014 to 2024, even though their vote share have decreased this time, they are the number 2 person in the state, and this is immense.
So basically, BJP has not gained on Mamata's votes. They have gained from the votes that the Communist Party or the Congress have lost.
Correct. I'll give you a simple example. The leader of the house for the Congress Party, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, he lost this time. He was, I think, a 3-time or a 5-time MP. He lost to Yusuf Pathan. So I feel one thing that you definitely saw in West Bengal was a consolidation of votes. I feel that is something that stood out across the board in West Bengal, where people came and voted in a consolidated manner. So I feel that really made the difference in a state like West Bengal more than anything else. Secondly, I feel there were certain very interesting aspects that went around in West Bengal is, like if you take the Sandesh Khali incident, where TMC still won that seat. So I mean, there is a lot to talk about in terms of what actually happened in West Bengal. But I can certainly tell you that in 2020, I think 26, when they will go to polls, I think this is still going to be a very hotly contested state, because Mamata Banerjee again is going to be going after years of anti-incumbency.
Absolutely.
And last time I think the BJP would have done very, very well. I think the Prime Minister also put up a very spirited campaign. However, I think the onslaught of the second wave, I think it had a major role to play in that election. And secondly, I feel is that what BJP would need in Bengal in the times to come is they would need a local face that they do not have at this point in time. They have Suvendu Adhikari, yes, but I also feel the Karyakartas are demanding a BJP face from West Bengal.
So who do you think is that BJP face of problem?
I don't know. As of now, I think that's their biggest trouble. I think the minute BJP gets a BJP face in West Bengal, I think they can truly run riot in that state as well, because people want a BJP leader. I think their Karyakartas want a BJP leader.
So Janay, whenever we talk about West Bengal,
and when I say BJP leader, I mean to say someone who's grown from the ranks in the BJP. That's what I'm coming to say.
So Janay, whenever we talk about West Bengal, I always think of like how, since we both are Marwadis, like how in West Bengal, all the Marwadi businessmen first shifted to Calcutta to set up their businesses. And now because of the rule, like it was not that, it did not support businesses at that time, and then people moved to Mumbai and other metro cities. So what is your view on how the state has developed over the last few years, and what do you feel is the way forward for West Bengal?
Very interesting anecdote just to begin with. How the Marwadi businessmen reached West Bengal. I think I was reading this in some book when the Mughal emperors were going for large amounts of, when they were going for their campaigns and wars. I think a large number of them used to stick along with them and became the party. And then some of them stuck along in West Bengal thereafter. And now if you see, I think most leading estates, like old businesses, have come from West Bengal, right? If you look at, for example, you look at Birla, you look at Goenka. In law firms, if you look at Khaitan and company, you see a large number of people that have come from West Bengal. But here is a state whose industrial dominance has declined. And my fear, as I was saying earlier, is that the same thing will happen to Mumbai if we do not course correct. And why did it happen in West Bengal? I feel it became so union friendly that it became difficult to do business in the first place. It's all about having a balance, because only if businesses are there will the unions survive. And the unions will only survive if the businesses will only survive with the union. So it cannot be one winning over the other. It has to be both running in synchronization. So I feel that is one aspect. Secondly, I feel it is the ability, or they always say that there is a hustle that comes in the way, right? Like to a large extent, what you're seeing, the why the state of Gujarat is doing so well is because right now you're seeing an entrepreneurial hustle. So I feel that,
and definitely the support of the prime minister, like it definitely helps if the prime minister is from the same state, the home state is going to benefit from that.
no, 100%, but you also need to have conditions conducive to development, right?
And this is the first time Gujarat did not clean sweep. Like first time when I say, because we expected Gujarat to clean sweep, but they did lose 2 seats.
Yeah, I mean, look, that again, it all boils down to constituency, right? If you look at 24 out of 26, I still think that's a great number, because even in 2004 or in 1999, the Congress was winning a few seats from in Gujarat in the Lok Sabha elections. I'm not talking about the state assembly, but in the Lok Sabha elections, they had definitely done well. So if there were 6 to 7 seats, I would understand that it was a large talking point. But I feel with 1 or 2 seats, it does not really particularly matter. And I feel my fear is what will ail the opposition this time is they will feel that, look, we have a foot in the door. And I think this overconfidence has cost them even in 2018 when they won the 3 states of Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, and Madhya Pradesh. But they believe that, look, they've made it and this is it. The result was on the wall. So I feel this is a very interesting trend that we may see for the next, obviously 5 years is a very long time.
Definitely, Indian politics is super interesting. And you talk about these three Hindu heartland states of Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan. Let's talk about Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, where both the sitting CMs, where both the CM candidates of the BJP were not actually made the chief minister. So in Rajasthan, you always had Vasundhara Raje from BJP and Ashok Gehlot from Congress, who have always ruled the state between them. So this time, do you think that even after winning the state election, the fact that BJP lost seats in Rajasthan was because of not making Raje the chief minister?
No, I don't believe that particularly, because I feel like the state elections was actually what transcended into the general elections. BJP won with a slender majority. They won here also with a slender majority. The vote share didn't exceed more than 5% or 3% if you think of it. So what came out was the same. And Rajasthan has always been a flip-flop. No government has been in for more than 5 years in the recent trend that you have seen. Also, Rajasthan is very interesting because the constituencies in terms of areas are such large constituencies that it's also a very tough state to campaign. The weather goes against you. This sheer area of the constituency, where certain constituencies are in the arid desert, goes against you. So I mean to say, it didn't really make that much of a difference, because there were some stronghold Congress pockets that Congress did well in. There were certain stronghold BJP seats that BJP did well in. But there were certain issues that definitely did come up. And this is one issue that we're seeing now also. I felt Rajasthan really suffered with the paper leaks that happened in their state commission exams. And I felt that became an issue where the youth said that, look, boss, this needs to go. So that was one aspect that obviously came in. Then I also feel, secondly, you saw consolidation of votes yet again in Rajasthan. You saw that in the state assembly, you saw that in the Lok Sabha.
No, but why wasn't Vasundhara Raje made the chief minister?
Look, I mean, that is again anybody's guess, but I also feel the idea is to escape incumbency, because Vasundhara Raje has been around for 5 to 10 years now. So the idea is that you get fresh blood. And when you get fresh blood, you give the public another face. When you give the public another face, there are new ideas that are generated. It's similar as to why in a company you see that after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you see a turnaround in terms of the CEO. And that's what the BJP is, right? They always said that we're not a party of one person or one person holding power, of a particular family holding power. And I feel that's what also for a large amount of people makes the party so special, that today a Karyakarta can become the chief minister. So that's the opportunity that's provided.
So I'll move to Madhya Pradesh, where a similar situation took place. Shivraj Singh Chauhan fighting the state elections, cutthroat, ensuring that the BJP comes to power, and then he's not made the chief minister.
No, but if you think
and then you have a Mohan Yadav coming in as a chief minister, but Shivraj Singh Chauhan still manages to clean sweep Madhya Pradesh in the Lok Sabha election.
No, but I'll tell you, there are two things, right? I think in Madhya Pradesh you did exceedingly well. By you meaning the BJP did exceedingly well. I felt the biggest seat that they won was in Chhindwara, where Nakul Nath lost, Kamal Nath's son, who was the ex-chief minister and who is the most powerful man in Chhindwara. I think his son losing played a big role in the trend of the Hawa of that particular state. I also feel that if you see after Gujarat, the most pro-BJP state that has now come in is Madhya Pradesh. But now look back at the exit polls, Divyesh. How many exit polls said that you're winning, by you meaning BJP is winning Madhya Pradesh? A lot of people said you're not winning. A lot of people
No, no.
said,
All exit polls predicted Madhya Pradesh, but they expected a few seats to go down in Madhya Pradesh, and that too because of Shivraj Singh Chauhan
no,
not
so,
being made the chief
no.
minister.
So I felt that, I don't think people expected Shivraj Singh Chauhan not to become the CM when the results were coming out. So that I would disagree with you on. And second, from whatever I remember seeing, a large number of exit pollsters recommended or put up that the BJP would lose, and I think Kamal Nath would come back in as chief minister. And again, anti-incumbency was a cost to play because besides the 2-3 year period, BJP was in power for a long point in time. So once that changed, that was aspect number one. And aspect number two is that you've seen a consolidation of the Hindu vote in Madhya Pradesh, which has favored the BJP now. And I feel the Ram Mandir has had a large role to play. There are temples. It's obviously been a very religious site in Ujjain also. So you see these seats that have done very well. So after Gujarat, I feel that one state that has become very pro-BJP or will always be considered a very BJP-friendly state is now Madhya Pradesh in the times to come. And to answer your question on Shivraj Singh Chauhan, if there is one person who is there to handle the agriculture ministry today in India, which is such an important ministry with a little bit of rural distress that you've seen post COVID, where you've seen a slightly K shaped recovery of the economy, where certain sectors have done exceedingly well while certain sectors have slumped. I think that is Shivraj Singh Chauhan because he's a very dynamic agriculture minister. He's somebody who understands it, and if you can call someone a domain area expert, the same way Jaishankar is for foreign affairs, I think this is the right man for the right job.
So there's always talk about who's next after Modi in BJP. So do you think a Shivraj Singh Chauhan is a possible candidate for the next prime minister, and they are training him, or the roadmap is being laid down for him to become the prime minister?
Look, I don't know. I think from the way I see it, I think the BJP, the best man for the BJP is Prime Minister Modi, and for how many years as he would be there to serve as Prime Minister for the BJP, they would be happy. And I feel these other elements that, X is number two, Y is number two, that again goes into the realm of gossip, right? Because
No, but
politics.
it's not about gossip. But you need a number two because there is fear amongst the people that after Modi gaya to BJP toot jayega. So
No,
who's next?
I mean, look, I don't think I'm the right person to answer that question for you, and neither could I pinpoint and say that, X is next or Y is next. And I also definitely feel that happens when there is a slightly weaker prime minister. But with the prime minister's popularity so high at this point in time, there has never been a question of a number two. It has always been Prime Minister Narendra Modi because that's just the manner in which he's functioned. There are obviously very, very important people who have been key to the BJP's success. Amit Shah, for example, the brilliant strategist that he's proven out to be for the years that there is. Or Yogi Adityanath, who's won in UP for so many years. Devendra Fadnavis, who's done well in Maharashtra for a while. So you see, there are obviously leaders who are powerful, but there is no question of a number two. Also, I feel what separates the BJP from the Congress in this point is that it's not a dynastic party. So it's not that after years of a drubbing defeat, also one family will decide that, okay, today it's going to be Manmohan Singh, tomorrow it's going to be Kharge, tomorrow it's going to be that after. So you definitely don't know who it is going to be. And third, I always feel that when political leaders rise, they'll rise and you just won't know it. In 1 year or 2 years, you may see that, but those seeds are being laid for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And that hard work that they're doing is only known to them.
Absolutely.
So I feel when you're someone rising, you'll just see it and then you won't know that they're there until they're there.
Yeah, and that's why I said that this election probably is one of the best results because you still have Prime Minister Modi as the Prime Minister, which was so essential for our country. Otherwise, there are so many external factors, other countries looking up on India, and they don't want a stable government. They don't want Modi's leadership because they know Modi at the center, with Modi as the face of India, India has an opinion in every global issue. India is the leader
Very
that
interesting.
every other leader wants to be friends with. So that is why I feel a Prime Minister Modi is a must for our nation.
I'll tell you very interesting. Prime Minister Modi, I think the most interesting facet is you have moved from non-appeasement to India first.
Absolutely. Like, agar humko oil chahiye, we'll go to Russia, we'll ask for oil.
Correct.
And we'll still do trade with USA.
Correct. So I feel India first has become such an interesting element where, for example, the Prime Minister will still stand with Zelensky at the G7 summit, but at the same time will maintain ties with Russia, will take oil from Russia, will make sure that, and that's where India did not suffer during the period of COVID and thereafter when the Ukraine war happened, where we could still get oil at a very reasonable price as compared to a lot of European nations. Also, I feel amongst the general public, this view is that, when you speak to people, they feel that, India before used to be looked upon as a third world country. Oh, that, we used to stand on the side. I feel like now our days come in the sun where we're shining. because
And other prime ministers are doing namaste. Like if you saw the Italian prime minister while greeting other leaders, she was doing namaste. So that's the Modi effect.
that's the Modi effect. And I also feel that is the effect when you have a personal popularity and a personal goodwill.
So, Janay, like before, when everyone was expecting 400 par for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, there were a few policies that we knew that would come in immediately, like the UCC or One Nation, One Election. But now with this coalition government, do you think there is going to be a change in the plan or a change in the timeline of implementation of policies? Or what do you see? What are the policies that we can see in the next 5 years that BJP is going to implement?
You know, I feel the most important thing that you're going to see in the next 5 years is you're going to see a push to two things, and that is A, you're going to see the infrastructure push, where I feel the railways are going to be at the forefront of this push, where you're going to see the trains that have come out, the Vande Bharat trains. You're going to see different versions of the Vande Bharat trains. You may see a Vande Bharat sleeper train, you may see a Vande Bharat, you may see the normal 3 hour distance trains, you may see better local trains that may come in. I feel that, you know, how a lot of people are using, say, a flight to go from point A to point B in a certain class of society with the resistance to the trains. They will all be people who will be very happy now using the trains. I feel that will be the biggest change that's going to come about. Second, you're going to have the expansion of the railway system is going to go far and beyond. I feel that is going to be a very important ply. And going hand in hand is over the last 5 years, you would have seen a lot of PLI schemes, production linked incentive schemes that have gone about, where in terms of electric vehicles, in terms of industries, in terms of semiconductor chips, in terms of manufacturing, globally you're seeing this talk of China plus one. That's where you're going to see India benefiting with the plus one, because again, what is the international community seeing? You're seeing that there is political stability. You're seeing that there's one government here for the next 5 years. So I feel that these are going to be the two major economic pushes that you're going to see. Third, I think on the foreign policy front, you're also going to see India sticking to India first, with the whole situation going to be as tumultuous as it is with Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, with so many issues that are diverging, because you're going to see that if India gets caught up in these issues, which India, it will only suffer. However, if India can stick to their own benefits, it can stick to their own interests and still balance the sensibilities of the world, India is to prosper. So I feel that is going to be one issue that you're going to see that's going to be a big forefront.
Will we see a UCC?
Will we see a UCC? Look, I mean to say, you've seen UCC come up in certain states, like Goa's had it for a long point.
Now we've had Uttarakhand.
Uttarakhand. But I also feel the UCC is not as straitjacketed, because in India you have to understand that there is a scheduled tribes. The tribes have always followed their own norms, they've always followed their own customs. So you don't know how hesitant or how easy it would be for the tribes to open up to the Uniform Civil Code. So I feel that will be one aspect. So UCC also, I feel some parts are state issues. So whether will you see a central law, a state law, I feel that will be one aspect.
What is the UCC? What is the Uniform Civil Code as per the directive principles of state policy as enshrined in our constitution?
Article 44, I think, of our constitution states that we shall endeavor towards a uniform civil code. What it essentially comes down to say is that across your religion, so each religion has their own personal laws. Say the Islam will follow their own ways for marriage, divorce. There may be certain issues that may arise with, for example, divorce in Islam, where you saw triple talaq. Now, for example, in Hinduism, you have the Hindu laws, right? You have the Hindu Marriage Act, Hindu Succession Act. There may be certain aspects that may arise with regard to succession of property that later the Supreme Court delved into. What the Uniform Civil Code, for example, will tell you, or for example, the Parsis do things their own ways, where they still have a jury system, or for example, they have their own marriage laws. You see, have their own Parsi Panchayat courts.
So basically, the personal laws with respect to marriage, inheritance, succession.
It will all be uniform. Despite whatever religion you come from, it will all be uniform. Everybody will get married a certain way, divorce will work a certain way, your succession laws will operate a certain way. There will be more predictability across the board. Most importantly, litigation, the amount of litigation that personal laws span that really clog up our courts, that will reduce sufficiently, because again, there will be certainty that will arise. Thirdly, complications that will arise, because Islamic law has their own subject area experts, Hindu law have their own subject area experts, Parsi law is a species of its own. So you will see all of these aspects get cleared up easily. So there will be a lot of certainty that will come into play. So the advantages of this are manifold. And I feel most importantly, in terms of gender empowerment, across personal laws you have seen that have not been reformed. You've seen women, unfortunately, at the shorter end of the stick. So I feel that will bring them on a level playing ground, where they will have a say in familial matters, they will have a say in succession matters, they will have a larger step in the economic matters. So I feel the benefits that are going to come in is going to be for society as a whole.
Let's talk about One Nation, One Election.
You know, when you talk about one nation, one election, I think what India suffers from is paralysis of the machinery when you go into elections. Take Maharashtra as an example for this year. When you had the general elections going on, you basically had work stopping from March where the state government refused to work because certain policies cannot be
The code of
implemented.
conduct kicks in. Achar
Correct.
Sanhita.
Now, when the state elections will come into play in October, there again the code of conduct will kick in. So you've had a state where for 5 to 6 months no work has only happened. Who is suffering? You, me, and everyone across the board. Because the state is for the citizens, it's for our welfare, it's for our needs, it's for our rights, it's for our responsibilities. When the state stops functioning, we suffer. Second, the cost. To put up an election is like putting up a whole project altogether. Every 6 months you're in election mode, election mode, election mode, election mode. So there again, the taxpayers are footing, you and me are footing a massive cost. So with one nation, one election, and the rubric of this, the document is very interesting because there have been detailed recommendations. So someone questioned saying that, oh look, what if there's a hung assembly? Saying that in 2027, what if Maharashtra State Assembly gets dissolved?
Absolutely. Then you'll have to do another election in Maharashtra. So the
Correct.
cycle will break.
No, it will not break because that election will only last till 2029. And thereafter, you will again have a free run till 2034.
So, Janay, with one nation, one election, my issue is that you can't have checks and balances in place. You're with elections happening everywhere in 5 years. So every time the national party is not doing well, or there is something that's going against they still have an election to contest in the state. So they are all on pressure mode. It's not that you do work for once in every 5 years, then you have the 5 years to enjoy.
But it's not about enjoyment, right? It's about cost benefit. The cost benefit ratio that going into elections every 5 years is a very tedious task. Do you want to go through that task once in 5 years, or do you want to go every 6 months into task and then put the machinery at play, put the expenses at play, stop work for that much amount of time? So ultimately, it's a cost benefit ratio that now, for example, this is one of the things on the BJP manifesto, and with them in power now, it's a possibility that it may happen because it looks like the people have voted for that. They've tilted towards that cost benefit ratio in that scale, if one may say so.
Janay, ये बता politics कब join कर रहे हो?
No, I don't want to join.
You don't want to join politics?
I mean, I don't know. Let's see. I mean, who's giving?
Because you like, this is coming out from the conversations that we have, that you have a mind that thinks of policy, like how governance should be. So don't you feel that we need leaders like you?
No, I'm just happy being a lawyer.
Okay, so to conclude, what if Janay Jain was the Prime Minister of India? Like, let's say in 2039? Is that an election year? So what are the 3 important things that you would do as the Prime Minister of India?
I mean, I feel it's not as the Prime Minister of India, but these are just my general views that we'll always speak about. I feel what Bill Clinton first said, I think in the elections when he had come in, you know, once the economy had taken a fall in America and the Cold War had been sorted out, he said it's about the economy, stupid. So I think the first question is that your outlook always has to be on growing the economy. Second, I also feel that India's infrastructure has to be improved because you have to give each person the most semblant experience of infrastructure in India, that there are no bottlenecks that are created. And thirdly, with this, you have to also have welfare schemes that pervade all across. So I really feel it's a wholesome scenario altogether. It's neither or, it's neither a battle of the isms, it's neither capitalism versus communism. I think the answer is whatever it has to be a balanced outlook that goes forward.
Thank you so much, Janay Jain.
Cheers.
So that was it from this great political episode. I'm sure we're going to have Janay back again for more political and legal episodes. So if you enjoyed watching this episode, make sure you subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, comment and share. Thank you for watching.